So we have major updates coming out of Minneapolis in regards to the shooting of Alex Preddy. The National Guard has been activated. They're currently on the ground, and Democrats are threatening to shut down the government over this shooting. Take a look.
In this hour in Minneapolis, where that city is seeing its second deadly shooting involving federal personnel in less than 3 weeks. The Minnesota National Guard is now activated as investigators work to learn more about the shooting. News Nation's Mills Hayes is live in Minneapolis at a memorial site for the victim, Alex Preddy. Mills, good morning. I see a makeshift memorial behind you. Tell me what you're learning this morning.
Alex Preddy, who was killed right here just yesterday, and you could see candles and flowers and photos of Preddy all surrounding where he was shot and killed earlier today. Now, I want to show you guys some video from the incident that took place, some of the video that shows the moments leading up to that shooting, where Preddy is seen with a cell phone in his hand, and he's pushed back by a federal officer, and witnesses say about 15 ICE observers were on the scene recording agents at the time, as DHS says that they were conducting a targeted enforcement of an undocumented man wanted for domestic assault. And DHS says that the agent fired in self-defense after a man with a gun approached them and violently resisted when officers tried to disarm him. But no bystander video we've seen shows Preddy with a visible weapon. He's tackled to the ground by at least 4 officers, and it appears that a federal officer in a gray jacket reaches into the scuffle empty-handed and emerges with a gun before at least 9 shots are fired by another officer.
So let us start off by saying it is very unfortunate that someone lost their lives, and there needs to be an investigation to figure out exactly what happened, because if these reports are accurate, where he did not reach for his weapon and he was shot by Border Patrol agents, then there needs to be some form of accountability. I've seen plenty of videos going around, plenty of commentary going around, but at the end of the day, there needs to be a thorough investigation to figure out exactly what happened, because we do not condone the killing of anyone, whether it's an ICE agent, whether it's a citizen. We do not like or condone any types of killing or murder. Needless to say, what we have to understand is that ICE and Border Patrol, they were on the ground to arrest an illegal alien. That is what they were doing. I know a lot of people, they're protesting, they're being activists and doing like a whole bunch of different things trying to impede ICE. You have to be careful whenever you're out there. And I would recommend, if you're going to exercise your right to protest, I would recommend doing so peacefully. Do not try to be aggressive. If law enforcement, if ICE or anyone tells you like, hey, step away, back up, move away, listen to them. Because at the end of the day, they're trying to do their job, a job that is set forth by Congress. It's not like they were there trying to arrest an American citizen or anything of that sort, right? They were there to arrest an illegal alien, right? We have to keep that in mind. And whenever you show up with a weapon and you start being violent or confrontational with ICE, they're going to perceive that as a threat, right? Because you have to remember that ever since this entire thing started in Minneapolis, a whole bunch of agents have been assaulted, have been, essentially prevented from doing their jobs. When they show up to arrest someone, you have people trying to box them in with cars. You had that lady, Renee Good, try to run over an ICE agent. So with all these different things, they're going to perceive that as a threat if you show up being violent, being confrontational with a weapon, even if your intentions weren't to cause any harm or anything like that. Just listen, just comply, let them do their jobs, right? Because you'll have situations like these, right? And as a result of that shooting yesterday, there was a whole bunch of protesters, a whole bunch of activists that came in and started rioting, essentially biting off ICE fingers of Border Patrol. And after all that, the police went in, the Minneapolis police tried to quell the situation, and they had to retreat. And then Governor Tim Walz had to activate the National Guard.
Have you activated the National Guard? I noted that Sheriff Witt has requested for additional assistance. Can you tell us whether they're going to be playing a role in keeping the peace?
Yes, the answer is yes, we have, as we said last week, and we staged those troops. I'll have General Menke talk about where they're at, and again, use this as an opportunity to stress to Minnesotans the frustration you have, and as you saw this, they killed a man, created chaos.
So the only chaos that has been created is pretty much your rhetoric. Your rhetoric created that chaos. You, to Governor Tim Walz and Jacob Frey, has been telling people to go out there and resist ICE, to put their lives on the line. You guys have been telling them that. And now you have created a situation where people are dying and the situation is out of control, because you have to look across the country. ICE is in many different cities. They're in many different cities, many different states, and they're cooperating with the local government, and you don't see stuff like this happening because you wanted to be a tough guy. You and Jacob Fry and the rest of them, I don't know what you guys are hiding. In my opinion, it's all the fraud that's going on there. So you created the chaos. You created the situation. And now the situation is out of control. And now you had to deploy the National Guard. And even after you deploy the National Guard, you're going to talk tough and try to say, well, the federal government is going to pay for the National Guard. Take a look.
Yeah. I would note on this one, too, that we'll be billing the federal government for the cost of the National Guard because they are incurring the costs that are falling on us by their reckless actions. Yes, sir.
So you're not going to bill the federal government. That is not how it works. The state activated the National Guard, so the state's going to have to pay for that. If the president activated the National Guard under Title 10, I believe, then he would be paying for it. So at this point, this is just rhetoric. Governor Tim Walz, he's just trying to seem tough to his base because they're losing this fight, because they're trying to put up a fight against ICE, and it's costing people their lives. So you need to stop doing that. Just cooperate with ICE, right? So you can stop allowing people to die. So yesterday I spoke about how Congressional Democrats, they're underwater with their base. Now they're trying to take full advantage of this situation, the tragedy of someone dying, and trying to shut down the government. Take a look.
The risk of another shutdown by the federal government is now rising after this shooting. Staying with what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now, Democrats saying that they plan to block a bill funding the Department of Homeland Security in order to rein in Secretary Noem and ICE. News Nation's Hannah Brandt joins us now from D.C. Hannah, how real is this latest shutdown threat? Tell us what's going on.
Laura, it's very real. The odds of a partial shutdown definitely seem more likely after this deadly shooting. We know the Senate was already scheduled to vote this week on legislation to fund the government. And this legislation includes money for DHS and so by extension, ICE. And now, after this shooting, more than half the Democratic caucus is saying they won't vote to give any more money to DHS without including restrictions on immigration enforcement in law.
So it is unfortunate that Democrats, Congressional Democrats, are using this issue to achieve their political aim. And when you think about it, what are they really gaining from this? Because they're willing to hold the federal government hostage. And for what? Because who's going to benefit from this? No one's going to benefit from this if you think about it. Because people are not going to be paid. Active duty military members are not going to be paid. People who depend on the government for a paycheck are not going to be paid. People who depend on the government for food, like SNAP benefits or recipients, they're not going to be paid. And quite frankly, I don't really think the Democrats, they're going to win this showdown, because the last time they lost the showdown between them and the Trump administration when they chose to shut down the government for damn near 2 months over funding healthcare for illegal aliens, right? They lost that fight. And now they're trying to do the same thing. So the reason why they're doing this, they're trying to defund DHS, which ICE is a part of DHS, and they're responsible for getting rid of illegal aliens. And the thing is, what we know is that how congressional seats are allocated is based on a state's or the population. And whenever you have a lot of these illegal aliens being deported, then these cities, these states, they're going to lose a lot of their population, and they're going to lose seats based on that. That is why they're fighting so hard. But quite frankly, I think they're going to lose this fight, because at the end of the day, they work for the American people, and the American people see what's going on. With that being said, that brings us to the end of the show today. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you want more like this, please consider liking, sharing, commenting, and subscribe, and help us grow. Thank you.